faces in the chat today. And welcome, one and all, to Industry Interviews. I am here with special guest Daniecae. Say hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Yep. Okay, cool. All right, let's see. Let me make sure I can actually pay attention to the live chat here. All right. Yeah, me. Okay. So, how you been doing today, dude?
I'm good. I woke up early to get some cleaning done, so now I have a fresh, clean. Oh, you guys can't see it. Wonderful. Because you can see my way too often, anyways. Breakfast, and I'm ready to chat, dude. I'm ready to go.
Outstanding. Yeah, no, I have no room to talk about spaces being train wrecked, but again, I maintained that looking at that me putting my face on a screen would probably result in broken monitors, and I choose to not be responsible for that. So yeah, I don't think I even have the camera hooked up right now. I need the USB ports. I needed the USB port for it for a drive. So okay.
Yeah, well, when it comes to being a single dude in a one-bedroom apartment, it's not that hard to clean. You were talking before, you said you have some kiddos, so you have all the excuses in the world.
Yeah, well, the table behind me is a little is not quite what it should be, even in those cases. Yeah, I probably do have something resembling an excuse. I just rather not have to use it. If that makes any freaking sense. What?
You use it for what it counts, right?
Yeah. When it counts. Speak of the history of the Next to Nothing podcast. How did this get started? Just the whole thing. Start at the beginning, and when you get to the end, stop. Let me see about. Danny, can you tweak the gain on your microphone, please?
It's actually about as high as it will go.
That's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why. Sanji's complaining that Sanji and Opal said they can't hear you, and there's four.
On OBS is the desktop audio on?
Yeah, actually I use XSplit, but let me see something here. That's not what I want. Let me see if I can turn you specifically up here. Should be able to. Not from here, I can't. It says invite to server, profile mention, blah blah blah.
Right click on my...
Oh, hang on. Let me do this from the other. Well, no, I get a chance to mute you. Profile call. Actually, the alterations to your. Huh? Weird. No, I didn't chew the wrong cable again. All right, let me. You know what I bet it might be? I think it might actually be the. I think it might actually be the microphone. Because I'm running the desktop audio through the microphone, and that may actually be the problem. Which suggests, give me 2 seconds here. Shush it, Opal, I got this. Hold on, let me. Let me see. Doop, 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 doop. That's just video encoding. And all right, screw it. We're gonna do this. We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna do this the easiest way possible, and I'll have to check it. I'll have to work it out a little on the later side. Let me grab the call here and go back to the default device. Oh, wait a minute. Here's voice settings. Let me see. Output device. Let's go back. And that doesn't look like it's going to work. Give me 2 seconds here. All right. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, that should maybe fix that. Unfortunately, any kind of mild echo is probably just going to have to be dealt with as we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, how's that? How's that for you, chat? Are we feeding the? Are we feeding this audio properly now? 456? No, it's 789. That's it.
Okay.
Ballistic bastard.
All right. So you want me to kind of explain the history of the show?
Yes, please. If you would, that would be lovely. Definitely be a good place to start.
Yeah. So a little background information on myself. I university for media production. It only really lasted about a month or so. The branding wasn't good. It was just very raw and unproduced, even more so than what the show is now. So it kind of crumbled,
okay
and
now.
What's that?
You seem to do okay right now.
Yeah, it's right now it's about 2 years worth of refinals.
Well,
Um,
that tends to happen over a long period of time.
yeah. So yeah, it kind of crumbled at that point, and I decided I was going to take over the show entirely. Find two new co-hosts. One, a really good friend of mine, Renditions, or we became really good friends over the course of a year and a half. That he was my co-host. Spectista, she's an artist and a Twitch streamer as well. She didn't last that long. She got really busy with her school load. And so me and Ren took it over for about a year and a half and saw, the success that we saw there. Mm-hmm. Last year, Ren decided that he would like to explore more content avenues. And so me and him amicably parted ways, and I brought on my current co-hosts, Mr. Green Elite, who me and him are actually local to each other.
Well, that would help.
And then we hang out every so often, about once a month or so. We hang out. We both we got to know each other from. I work at a radio station, and so he was one of the listeners for the radio station, and also a supporter of one of my coworkers who also streams on Twitch.
Right.
So me and him got to know each other through my job and such. And then my other co-host, Revspan, was a guy who I had done some collaboration with before. I'd met him through a mutual friend on the platform, and we click really well. And he's got a lot of really cool creative ideas, so we brought him on, and it was really fantastic. So that's where where we are with the show right now. This is actually our 2-year. This week, the next episode is actually going to be our 2-year anniversary of the entire show.
Cool.
Which is really exciting. The show itself, I guess I should have explained what the show itself is about. We market it and brand it as a show for gamers on a budget, talking about things about like reviewing the games themselves, reviewing services, reviewing tech, in the idea that the vast majority of people only have so much money to spend, right? They can maybe only, if we break the year up into quarters, maybe they can only afford a $60 once every 3 months.
Right.
And so we talk about it like that, and talk about all of the other aspects of gaming, and do it on a budget, budget PC building, peripherals, and all that stuff. So that's the focus of the show. We even talk, and it's not just PC and video games. We also talk sometimes about board games, with D&D players. So every so often when a new book comes out or something like that, I'll talk about this in there, and if I think it's worth picking up. So yeah, that's the show. That's the history of the show and what we do.
No, that actually seems like a good place to start. I'm a little more all over the place. Mostly I do indie games here, mm-hmm. but I have actually been able to get a little bit more into some of the AAA space, even though some of it's actually quite late. The stuff that really interests me, but in terms of most of what I've actually done, I think is actually in RPGs. To be brutally honest with myself, RPGs, adventure games, that kind of thing. most of it actually turns out to be not particularly expensive. So,
Yeah.
I could try the budget thing. I doubt it would work, but it could. One of these days, actually, I want to start doing trying to figure out a way to do an online D&D game.
Oh yeah, we've done. When I was streaming the first year I was streaming, we actually did do campaign on my stream. I had one. I had a set goal in mind. I knew how I was gonna. I did the. I did what's it called? Roll20. Discord. They were all fantastic tools. We even used Google Docs to help maintain each other's character sheets and stuff like that. Especially because I had some new players, so it all worked out really well and pretty seamlessly. Just the biggest pain in the butt was in D20 in Roll20 was having all of the maps ready.
Yeah. Actually, the sad part of it is when I actually play tabletop, I typically don't use maps. It's kind of weird. You do the theater of the mind.
Huh? Doing theater.
More or less. They use it. I've used all kinds of rule sets for that. Hell, there's an old Star Trek RPG I used to do that with. But yeah, in terms of the actual, never actually appealed to me. I always found role playing to be more about telling this than taking 3 sessions to do one combat.
Yeah, it was really difficult things. I have a few, I had some new players who they had a hard time visualizing the space, in understanding like combat. So I found just having the map and being like, okay, this is, this is the space. This is how much you guys can move. It'll tell you guys all those rules, so you guys can at least visualize the combat. It actually helped out the new players a lot.
Yeah, that's for newbie players, but typically I kind of like to move away from the maps as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
Speaking
I agree.
Just kind of off the topic here for about 15 seconds. Do want to say hello there to Cheyenne Wheeler. I saw you up in the chat a little while ago. And Tom Tom has showed up. It's been a while. He's I believe Tom Tom's from Slovakia, but don't quote me on that. So yeah, I actually tend to draw a more European crowd, which is kind of unusual, I think, especially for a strictly U.S. based critter.
Yeah, I had this weird thing where when I started streaming, I had a significant amount of French Canadians that would come into my stream. Mm-hmm. Some folks like Nepsius and Fred and Burns and a few other people who, if they watch this, miss you guys. Haven't seen you guys in a while. But yeah, it was like I had like 7 or 8, and I only had 2 followers at the time, so I had 7 or 8 viewers who would come in regularly, all from like the Montreal area. Only 2 of them knew each other, or I shouldn't say from the Montreal area, but from Quebec. And I'm not Canadian. I'm an American. I'm in Iowa, so not very Canadian at all.
I'm actually in the Pacific Northwest. So, that's right. Okay. Tom is in Croatia, not Slovakia. I apologize, Tom. It's been a while since the topic came up, and I've slept since then. The planet knows that one. Opal is Canadian. Sanji is my one and only regular American, believe it or not. He's from Texas.
Little state of Texas.
But I have a couple of folks that hail from Canada that turn up for these. But yeah, most of the folks that actually watch, I think, are coming from Europe.
Yeah.
So 11 in the morning for me is like 7 p.m. for them, and they can kind of kick back and watch.
Yeah. Well, kind of like related to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Carry on.
I was just like, related to like the podcast and stuff like that. There's a lot of hosts, podcast as in myself, but hosting platforms, they actually tell you where your viewers and your listeners are coming from. I don't know if you've ever delved into that stuff, but it's really interesting when you look at it. Like, I'm going to mine real quick.
Well, YouTube actually does the same thing. It'll tell me where.
Yeah.
It'll give me at least a region they're coming from.
Yeah. Let's see. My host, they have. There it is. Yeah, like I have like a weird amount of people who listen in Sweden. Like it was like overall, like I'm like, I don't know anyone in Sweden. I don't think I've ever had anyone come into my chat that said they were explicitly from Sweden. I'm sure maybe someone has, but I'm just like, huh, weird. I just have a bunch of Swedish listeners that I know nothing about, unless it's a VPN, in which case I could, just be, a dummy.
Yeah, I don't place too much stock in it. In the stats like that, simply because VPNs are in fact a thing.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the majority of the folks that actually sit in the chat and talk to us, they're from Canada or Europe somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just have a bad habit of doxing ourselves to within 100 kilometers.
Actually, I actually don't mind. I don't say specifically where I'm from or like the exact area that I live in, but I actually don't mind telling people, that I live in Iowa. I absolutely love my state. I go to bat for my state way more than one probably should. But, it's my home, and I think Iowa, a lot of people, they just think about it as the place with corn, and then they also think about Slipknot. Right. I think those are the two things. When you say Iowa, people think of those two things. And it's a little bit more than that, although I do get down to some Slipknot. I will throw some elbows to Slipknot.
Yeah, Tom, I'm more familiar with where Croatia is. I'm just, yeah. At least, yeah. If you can find folks that would at least point to the general vicinity of the Balkans for when asked where Croatia is, you're probably got one of the brighter ones. The Middle East is right up there.
Yeah. Well, I guess since we're talking about the Balkans, I actually went to a school. My elementary school was one of 3 in the city that later we had a lot of Bosnian refugees come to our area, particularly because I think a lot of the reason was we have a lot of agricultural work and some manufacturing work for John Deere. So I think a lot of people ended up kind of coming over here because it was a little bit easier to get a job. So I grew up with a lot of Bosnian kids, and point to it on a map, or at least it's right about there if it didn't have countries on the map.
Yeah.
But I learned former Yugoslav was just because I grew up with kids that were from Bosnia.
Well, I'm gonna be straight with you. I actually spent some time in the region, back in the 90s. So, if you don't mind me asking, was that for armed? Sir, I won't say anything else, but.
Well, let me be straight here, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Yes. Kind of getting back to what. Yeah, I mean that's the history of the show. That's a bit of my background as a human being. What else did you want to know?
I don't know. Let's start with since we both do video games. How about we start there? Favorite varieties there? Maybe we'll start with that.
Like my favorite genre of video games?
I think that's what the kids call it these days. Yeah.
I really like first-person shooters.
Oh yeah.
First-person shooters are kind of my bread and butter. I kind of got involved with the early CODs and stuff like that. I wasn't really allowed to. I really didn't have a console until, I had like a GameCube and a Wii, but I didn't have like an Xbox or PS3. I was like a junior in high school. So about that time, Modern Warfare 3 came out. The only other first-person shooter I had really played was on the Wii. It was called The Conduit. I don't know if you ever saw that game.
I did see that game, actually.
It was rough. It was a very rough first-person shooter. It was the first exclusive first-person shooter for the Wii. And I mean, it ran okay, but like the AI was awful. AI would stand behind exploding barrels, and the story was cheesy. Like you were a Secret Service agent, and you had to you were selected by this clandestine Illuminati organization, and little did you know they were actually working for the aliens that were about to invade.
Yeah. No, I remember. I remember that game all too well. That game was terrible
As a kid, but of course it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, no, this is like the only first-person shooter I have. Of course, I'm gonna love it.
Yeah, of course.
It was I think it was rated T for teen, unlike Modern Warfare, which was rated M, I think. So it was like the one that I could have in the house. All the other games that I played, first-person shooter wise, until my parents kind of laxed up on the rating system stuff, were at my friend's house. So, on PS2, Battlestar, Star Wars Battlefront 2, holy cow. And then some of the other, kind of later on, some of the other CODs, Warfare 2 and 3. I played the hell out of 2 in my friend's basement. It was a kind of an everyday after school thing for about a year. But yeah, now like a lot of the first-person shooters I play, I got really into a game called Dirty Bomb by Splash Damage. They were the developers of Brink. The game is kind of dead now, but that was a game I played for about 2-3 years. I mean, I have over 600 hours in that game. Another game that I put a lot of hours into was Insurgency, which it started itself as a
Hold on a second.
Half-Life 2.
I apologize. A little bit. My 5, almost 6-year-old was being a little strange. Actually, he was just he was mad at his. I think he was actually being mad at his brother. Okay. Yeah, that's the Colby sore. Sorry about that.
Colby sore. So yeah, and then another one of the games that I've spent probably way too much time playing was Insurgency, which was like a Half-Life 2 mod. It's done by NWI. They have since put out a sequel. But a lot of my time lately has been occupied by Apex Legends, and I'm very curious to see where this new Ubisoft Battle Royale is going to go, because that looks pretty fun too.
I don't know. See, I actually take issue with Ubisoft most of the time.
Yeah, it's not an unfounded issue.
Oh, we'll get into some of the reasons the AAA space, some of the things with AAA space in recent years, here in a little while, I think. Unless you want to talk about it now.
Oh yeah, but yeah, first-person shooters are my bread and butter. There's been other genres that have had my heart, like JRPGs. I've played, I played a shit ton of Pokemon. Can I swear on this?
I don't care.
Or would you rather not? Okay. I realized I said it. I'm like, oh, maybe I should check and make sure I can swear. But I played a ton.
I don't actually. I don't. I'm not going to censor mouth noises. I don't care. Free speech is a thing, and that's actually, believe it or not, that's how this channel actually started. Was as a mirror for some stuff that somehow or another managed to get itself popped off YouTube. And actually, it was the if I wanted to put my mitts on something specific, it was actually about the Five Guys burgers, the Five Guys thing with Zoe Quinn.
Oh, the meme. Yeah.
Yeah, the original videos were put out by a fellow that was at that point called Internet Aristocrat. There was a short series of them, and there were only, and I managed to put my hands on copies of all of the above, and I reposted them. That April and towards the end of August, I started putting up my own videos, calling out the bullshit in the gaming media at the time. So if you go all the way back to the beginning of the channel, you'll see a lot of really weird stuff. Don't mind the robot voices. I wasn't about to put my own voice to it at that particular moment in time.
Gotcha.
Well, I had people that lived near me that were easily upset by not just godlessness, because that's but also by but we're also entirely enamored of the mainstream media narrative on the subject. One of my neighbors wanted to know who the hell I used my channel name and wanted to know who the hell I was, so they could drag me around from the back of their truck for a while. I'm going, yeah, I think I'm gonna stay in the back. I think the voice is gonna stay in the background for a while. Yeah, that was not a good day.
Sound fun at all.
Well, the sad part of it is I'm absolutely certain these guys actually meant what they were saying. So yeah, I moved. I don't live there anymore.
Yeah,
I moved.
Yeah,
there was a thing.
I would move pretty quick too myself. Yeah. So, what were we on before that? We were talking about.
We were talking about JRPGs. What were some of your favorites?
Yeah. So I had it was kind of a short-lived affair with JRPGs. I still like them. I still really enjoy the stories and stuff. The ones that I've played, of course, Pokemon. And I consider Pokemon to be a JRPG. I think it's more of a subgenre if we want to get into it.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, between that and Temtem, we don't talk about.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Temtem around here. We've got Pokemon. We do not need a ripoff.
We had someone on our show to talk about Temtem, and they seemed to enjoy it. They didn't sell me on it, so I kind of maybe later, and they never really did anything else that really attracted me after the initial release. But yeah, one of my absolute favorite games of all time is Pokemon Crystal. I still will go back and play that game. I don't care.
Play it? Wow, that's been a while.
Well, we'll say that the hardware issue is solved.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of what we're gonna say. Kind of hard to use a link cable like that, though.
Yeah. So the Pokemon Crystal, I still absolutely love that game. I still go back and play it. I'll watch playthroughs of that game. And then some of the other JRPGs I played were actually the remasters or the remakes of Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy IV. They put those out for the DS, and then I played through both of them and picked them back up on iOS when they were released. I got an iPod Touch for Christmas one year and went through and I picked up a bunch of games. Some of them are still available on the iOS platform. Final Fantasy 3 and 4.
iOS platform, to be honest with you, there's some games I paid for that were never actually updated. Despair when that happened. The original Shin Megami Tensei, for example, because that's actually one of my favorite series, the FCG series, and they actually had a translated version of it up on iOS, and now it doesn't work anymore, at all. The same turned out to be true of Tales of Fantasia, which is another game I actually just didn't get to.
EA put out a Battlefield Bad Company port of some kind. I think it was a standalone game, but it had a multiplayer on it. that felt, I mean, this was back in 2012, 2013.
I remember it.
That, yeah, I mean, it felt like how COD Mobile plays now.
Yeah.
Just, there wasn't any controller support, so you didn't get completely wrecked by people who had controllers.
Right.
Uh,
Actually,
So-
the thing I've discovered is the control is for at least for some of those, unless you started out with one, you're probably better off with a keyboard and mouse anyway.
yeah.
I get much better performance from a keyboard and mouse in first person shooters.
Oh, yeah. But like on mobile though, when you're just trying to slide your thumbs across but there is a way for Call of Duty Mobile. Tencent has their own emulator.
Mm-hmm.
And Tencent was a big part of the Call of Duty Mobile development, and so you can actually play Call of Duty Mobile on your computer and use a key mouse, which just seems so unfair. It's like playing pun. I think you can do the same thing with PUBG Mobile, and I'm like, that just seems like you're beating a toddler. The person is trying to flick shot you, and they're staring up at the sky because they can't control their thumbs properly, and you're just there. Popping them off with
pop.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
that's actually always been my issue with a controller. If I'm going to do first person shooter, I'm going to go PC Master Race the whole way. The controller I actually find I have some difficulties with a controller on those things. But I'll take a controller for an RPG anytime, even an action RPG. It's kind of weird.
I don't think I've ever done for an ARPG. Are you talking like a Diablo, or are you talking some other game? Because I'm trying to think about doing like an ARPG for like Grim Dawn or Diablo with a controller, and I don't know how I would do that.
Well, not necessarily Diablo because it was actually designed for a keyboard, but I'm thinking more like the BioWare games.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Where you
like the Dragon.
Dragon Age or Mass Effect, or if you want to get really weird, Skyrim actually works better with it. Skyrim somehow or another works better with the Elder Scrolls. That shit works better with a mouse and keyboard. Most of the Bethesda games do.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing for a while. I've been doing Fallout New Vegas, which is another one of my favorite games of all time.
Ain't that
I have so much nostalgia. Right. Like just the music itself. Anytime I hear Dean Martin, there's where it was a Michelob Ultra commercial, and I'm just like, oh man, now I want to go play New Vegas. Anytime I heard that Michelob commercial. But yeah, I've been playing New Vegas, and this is my first time playing it on PC, and it's like a completely different game. Like aiming actually kind of sucks on keyboard and mouse, like doing ADS. I remember ADS all the time on the controller, but there's something about the shooting, quite from the Fallout game.
Well, understand that the thing you have to understand is that what they were using, the engine they were using for that was designed was actually set up for Oblivion, which doesn't do a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
And that was actually the way they used was the kludge, for lack of a better word at the moment. It was the kludges they used to in the Fallout games to deal with the fact that the engine itself was never designed to do that. Don't get me started about VATS in Fallout 76. Just don't even get me started.
Yeah, as I say, the engine that they used for that was the engine that they still continue to use, which is not good.
At least we can agree on that. They need a new engine. You guys, Bethesda, hear me now. You must have a new engine. Stop all work on Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield and get back to the freaking and go back to where you started from.
We talked about it on the show actually. we had a moment, and this was when Renditions was still my co-host, and Fallout 76 had put out a new update, and he had tried it out. He actually pre-ordered the game, and I remember I was kind of calling it. I'm like, don't get super hyped about this game. I'm not having a lot of faith in it. He played it, and he's like, yeah, you were right. This was not going to be what we wanted it to be at all. And so some time had passed, and he went to go back and play it. And he said, asked him after that, because he was not impressed with the new update. And I asked him, what do you think it's going to take to fix this game? And he says, there's no way. The game is so fundamentally broken. The networking issues that the game has, all the other bugs, you can't fix a house that's on a broken foundation. And that's what 76 is in. You just can't fix that.
Given the circumstances, what they did, the mistake they made using the engine from Fallout 4 and Skyrim, or the version of the engine Fallout 4 and Skyrim, to try and make a multiplayer game out of it. That was a problem, because that engine was designed on the expectation that people would mod it. And now not only are you taking out the mods, but you're leaving all of the support structures in, and just adding a network layer over the top of it, and you can't do that. The setups. Yeah. If you were going to do a multiplayer mod, Fallout 76 would have been fine as an alternate map set for Fallout 4, which is effectively what it is. The problem, of course, is that forcing it to be a multiplayer game only puts you at a disadvantage when it comes to the cheating thing, because it makes it way too freaking easy. And all of the bugs that were in Fallout 4 were effectively just replicated.
Yeah. It's one of those things.
It's like the only thing they did was disable the freaking console. And there were hacks to be able to re-add it.
Yeah. Well, and then people could get into the dev room and everything like that. It was just rough.
It was a train wreck. We expected it.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised when I kind of learned about the development of 76 that they didn't, they already have a multiplayer Elder Scrolls Online. I'm surprised they just didn't take all the stuff that they had for Elder Scrolls Online and convert it to a Fallout, setting.
Well,
all the architecture that was there. I don't know what stopped them from doing that or why they didn't do it, but it's one of those things. I don't know how original I am in that thought or anything.
You're not original. You're not original in that thought, and I do know why. And that's because they use two completely different asset types. You couldn't take the Fallout 4 assets and put them into Elder Scrolls Online and expect them to work on any level.
Well, I'm speaking more about just like creating assets for a Fallout game using the infrastructure that was already built in whatever engine they used.
That would have largely increased development time, and they needed something fairly quickly. Yeah, and with an increase in development time is also an increase in cost that they didn't know whether or not they were going to be able to recoup. Especially when you're talking about something that will be free to play effectively indefinitely. I can see why they made some of the decisions they made. They were not good ones. They should have done as you suggest here and gone with and just with things the way they were, and use the Elder Scrolls Online, which actually has a decent network layer and some frickin' security. The other parts of it would have involved additional mechanics and such for actual gunplay and other behaviors. Why put together? Why if you have the basic logic comes down to we already had everything set up on the creation engine that does all of this stuff, and we don't have to recode it for a different engine. For things like, average mole rat or a rad roach or something like that, especially in a place where we don't actually expect to have people.
Mm-hmm.
except of course other player characters. And that was never, and that was a thing that was not, that wasn't a good idea either. It saved them on development time, sure, not a problem. But it actually made the game was much worse for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what they probably should have done with Wastelanders when they put that together was they should have started filtering people in. You get the first few people that actually you find the first couple people that turned up, and you know the lady from the orbital platform that crash landed. That would have been fine. You start there and then you build up from it. Instead, a lot of people went to sleep one night, and then the following morning, they got up and there was a couple of almost completely. It doesn't work. It doesn't really work. It doesn't really work very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. It was just an unmitigated disaster, and I couldn't believe I was watching it unfold before my eyes. But I actually, even like going back on New Vegas right now, and like I still have very fond feelings about the game. But holy cow, am I seeing all of the hopes, dreams, and bubblegum that's holding that game together sometimes.
Actually,
that's what it feels like.
Believe it or not, with mods, it actually works pretty well. The problem, of course, is that where most people got introduced to it was most likely like you on console. You couldn't mod, and you still can't mod the consoles. You still can't mod the console edition of New Vegas. The same, of course, is true of Skyrim, and that's why, especially when you're dealing with Bethesda, PC Master Race. There are a lot of games that do really well on PC. There are some that are just going to turn into garbage on PC. For example, most recently we have Detroit Become Human. And some people with NVIDIA cards, actually most of the NVIDIA users, seem to be having problems launching the game from Steam. But the Epic Game Store version generally works. Go figure. Because I know I'm impacted by that. I went to grab the Detroit Become Human demo, and shit kind of went sideways with it. I told it to play. It gave me about 15 seconds, and play again. The little button turned green again. And I went, what the fuck? And nothing I've managed to do has actually worked. I told it to operate as on the administrator level. Still doesn't work. But apparently, people with drivers from like 4 or 5 revisions ago, they can actually run the game. But the current 2 or 3 iterations don't. They just don't at all. The 451.x versions don't work.
That's bizarre.
And
that's weird.
I'll give there. See, here's the thing. I actually this morning got the Epic Game Store version downloaded. And so
that is really weird.
Well, you want to know what's weirder? Actually, I'm not sure this is necessarily weirder, but it is certainly more interesting. The PlayStation 4 version is half. It's $40 on Epic Game Store. EGS and Steam have it for $40. $20 on PlayStation. Go figure.
Oh man, Detroit Become Human. I haven't played it yet, but I've seen a lot of people do playthroughs of it. It is such a fun romp. Just like sitting and watching it all. You know, of course, like I said, I haven't played it. But I have so many friends who have gone through and played it, and I've seen several of the endings, and I enjoy it every single time I watch it. Every single time I come into contact with Detroit Become Human, I always find myself really liking it. So it's one of those. I do need to go and actually pick it up for myself one of these days and play through it and see what ending I can get.
PS4?
I don't. I'm actually PC exclusive except for my phone.
Oh well.
Um,
I was going to ask you about your favorite consoles, but I think I'm going to scrap it now.
there's a period in time when I was living at home that I had, we had a GameCube, we had a Wii, we eventually got a Xbox 360, and then we had I had some handhelds. I had a Game Boy Color, an Advance SP, and a Nintendo DS. Out of those, I mean, I loved the Nintendo DS. I loved it. I actually ended up giving mine to. I sold mine actually to a kid I met at a summer camp. But throughout, I mean, all that time, I think the Nintendo DS and the GameCube, I absolutely loved everything on those that I had. I became a PC player during college. Like I said before, I went to school for me, so I had a dinky little laptop, a Dell Latitude something that I really only had that was meant to like write papers and do PowerPoints and stuff on, and watch Netflix. But I started needing something. I started trying to play some games on it, and it was okay. I averaged about 30 FPS on Insurgency, and it was fine. But I needed something that I could do video editing on. As my education progressed, I needed to start doing more video editing. I needed to start doing a little bit of Photoshop projects and stuff like that in order to really, get the best quality product out for my grades and for my portfolio as I could. So I ended up building this PC. 20, it's aged real bad now. But since then, I mean, I built it for the purpose of video editing, and I built it for kind of lightweight gaming. Now it needs to start doing some more heavy lifting in terms of gaming. But yeah, since then, I've just been exclusively PC.
Might be time for a new machine, dude.
Oh, yeah. I have one spec'd out, and so now it's just kind of waiting for sales and picking some stuff up. I'm looking at the AMD 3700X and putting a 1660 Ti with it, and I got some other parts spec'd out. The Corsair Vengeance RAM, and I'm thinking I'm looking at least 16 gigs. If not, I'll probably bump it up to 30, 32.
32.
Yeah, that's kind of what I already have all the hard drives and stuff I need. But yeah, I have one spec'd out. It's time. It's time. It's a 5-year-old machine with what was kind of high mid-end parts at that time. So now you can only imagine what it is.
When I built
comparatively.
this machine in 2018, there was actually right near. It was actually right near the bleeding edge. I'm in a position where I'm starting to have issues. Especially a silly motherboard. The USB bus is overloaded. It hates me.
How are you finding like performance issues with your games now? Like Call of Duty Warzone. Like I can play it, but I have a lot of stuttering and latency issues with it. I don't know. And of course, it's such a massive game. I mean, it's like a 200 gig game.
I know, right?
And so I kind of, I'm like, you know what? I enjoy playing this. I enjoy, but we can play other games together. I don't need to play Call of Duty with him. As much as I'm sure as Mr. Green Elite would love me to play Call of Duty with him every night that we could.
It's a very large investment in terms of hard drive space.
Yeah. Especially for a game that
we don't talk about
stutters
we don't talk about how much hard drive space I have attached to this machine right now. We don't. You don't want to know, dude.
Well, I have 2 hard drives in my PC. I have a 500 gig SSD and then a 1 terabyte HDD. All the really important stuff goes on the OS, some of the Adobe programs that I use regularly. I used to keep a few favorite games on there, or the games that I would play all the time. And then on the HDD was all my old, my thousands of photographs and my hundreds of hours of video that I would have to take. All my Photoshop projects would get stored on there. You know, all the external stuff that just took up gigs on gigs on gigs. Now a lot of that's been cleaned out, but yeah.
No, dude. I have a pile of externals attached to this thing.
Oh.
Right now it's 8, a 6, and a 4.
Oh man,
That's
you got one of those. You got one of those
terabytes.
hard drive racks.
No, actually, they're all in their own little cases. I wish I had a hard drive rack. Ooh boy. Ah, I see.
Oh.
I see. Mr. Marks has showed up. Outstanding.
Yeah, salty marks.
Danny's gonna have a hard time. Gonna have a struggle to play. I would be surprised if Far Cry 6 didn't come out, and
Right.
presumably right near the same, either at or right near the same time that it shows up on consoles.
Yeah. Have you played much of the Far Cry games?
I played the first couple. I actually haven't been bothered in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
Far Cry 2 kind of turned me off. I tried Far Cry 3 and went, yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm generally speaking an adventure, the adventure games and RPGs. But then at 18, when by the time when I was 18, the gold box games were on Commodore 64 were the gold standard.
Yeah.
I know there was no way I was going to avoid that joke. I tried. I really did.
Hey, look, it's just right there, right? It's never apologize for taking the low-hanging fruit.
Well, no, I was actually trying not to. I was honestly trying not to. There was just no way around it.
Yeah. In November, doing like a charity stream for the National Suicide. So all month I was just playing Far Cry. That was kind of, I wanted something that was going to be easy for me to, focus on and talk about why that particular cause, was important to me and such. So I chose the Far Cry games because Far Cry 3 I played, I could take breaks with it, pretty easily. So I was playing those and I played 3, 4, and 5. At the time I'd only played 3 and I played on Xbox 360. Absolutely a blast. I loved those games. I love playing them. I haven't played the other like standalones like Primal or the New Dawn, but
I'm reasonably sure I actually own most. I own at least a couple of the side games, but kill that real quick.
Yeah, Blood Dragon is one that I want to pick up. The Far Cry Blood Dragon. That's one that the standalone that came out after Fallout 3 or Fallout 3, Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
And it's just that looks. I mean, it's just like a goofy neon romp that calls back to like 80s action adventure. That looks so fun. I haven't picked it up yet, but I should.
Yeah. Actually, when it comes to first-person shooters, I actually find myself much more enamored of Doom or Duke Nukem. Those were better games, in my opinion. But then, of course, there's the elephant in the room. The worst FPS ever is Colonial Marines, which not only lied to us, but it lied to itself. What's up with that? All of the terrible AI, for the aliens was a typo. You take one letter out of one line in an INI file, and all of a sudden the game is like 3 million times better. What's up with that? Not that the 3 million times better is actually made it good. But it certainly was a lot more challenging that way.
Yeah, that's one of those weird QA things, and I wish I knew. I will admit one of the faults of our show is that none of us are game devs or have any real game development knowledge. And so those are those like little things that I'm always kind of like, wow, I really would QA. I really wish I understood programming. You know, my whole perspective is, you know, some of it, and you know, if we can kind of get into this later, but I have a perspective from media, and I look at this. I look at the gaming industry and the game commentary or review or news industry that's associated with it from the lens of someone kind of classically trained and understands things from like a old traditional media standpoint, which is radio. So I kind of look at, I just wish I had more knowledge on that. I really do, because understanding why like a typo in an INI file would completely destroy the experience of a game, like that fascinates me. And
Yeah,
it sounds like gibberish to me sometimes.
Well, once the error was actually pointed out, I caught a story on it somewhere. But once the error was actually pointed out, I looked at it and went, "Yeah, that would explain a lot." You see,
have you?
I do actually have some experience in game dev.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, because I think I listened to an episode. I listened to an episode in kind of preparation for this, and it sounded like you do have some experience in game dev.
I'll tell you
I was
what.
kind of
Do this.
about that.
Do this thing. Grab Google. Grab Google for a second. And look up a thing called Mobile Food Madness.
Madness.
You should find somewhere close to the top there. You should find a Ren'Py game from, I want to say, about 5 or 6 years ago.
I'm getting a lot of stuff for a Mudbug Mobile Madness.
No. Mobile Food Madness. Put it in quotation marks.
Let's go back to. Yeah. Oh, here we are. I'm pulling something up. Ren'Py. There we are. Game list. Okay.
Actually, it's from 2011. I'll give you I'll give you the link to the thread. Give me a second here. There we go. Here's the link to the thread at Lemisoft. This is actually a game that I wrote and had a hand in coding. Didn't do any of the art myself, obviously, because I just suck with a pen. But this is actually a game that I was way deep into the development of, and we did it in actually about 3 weeks. From all the way through to complete. Gotcha. There is actually a bug in it up the front, but it was actually just something twitchy that the primary coder missed.
I'm gonna go on ahead. I'm gonna save this. I'll check that out later.
Give that a download. Have a look, because it was actually, if you looked at the one for if you looked at the interview that I did, it actually centered around this game.
Yeah, I listened to during a workout, and I remember you speaking about this and talking about this, and on that episode.
There are, believe it or not, there are actually we actually released several games between 2011 and 2013.
Okay.
But there was a lot of it. There were a lot of instances where I wound up doing all the coding myself, and I was always so kind of a thing.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I will happily issue coding tasks if I can get away with it, but I can still do it.
Yeah.
The Ren'Py's not that hard to work in, so.
Yeah, I've never actually heard of Ren'Py. Now, like the little bit of game dev stuff that I've looked into, or like maybe I should do a little project and see just how difficult it is, was all like RPG Maker. I haven't even thought about messing with Blender or Unity or any of those other tools. I have some friends who mess with Blender just for like doing renders and stuff like that. I don't know how much they can really do.
Well, if you need
Other,
static image, it depends on what you need, really. If you use around a lot, then you're probably going to have some, and you're probably going to want you're actually going to want an actual model with rigging and all. If you're looking for static images, that's easily done with off-the-shelf software.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things I really want to learn more, and it's a blind spot that I willingly admit that our show has, is none of us have ever looked into how to actually design a game and how to build a game from the top up. Done is a lot of homebrewing for D&D.
Well,
if you
ever want me on the podcast, you have a very handy hook for it.
There we go.
Because that's something I can discuss at length. As we've already managed to prove to about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, so with the Ren put this here.
RenPy is actually RenPy is a Python-based scripting language that is set up primarily for visual novels. I've seen some people do some really fun things with it, though. I've actually seen dungeon crawlers done in it.
Interesting.
I've seen dungeon crawlers done in that. I actually think I have the code on hand to do that, as long as the maps are static. Randomized maps would be a problem, but static maps would be dead easy. What was it? If you want an example of a dungeon crawler done strictly in RenPy, Sakura Dungeon would be a good place to start.
Okay.
I actually pulled. The version on Steam is not particularly. Well, actually, it's not too bad. It was actually originally an adult game.
I made the mistake of going to the Google Images section. and very quickly figured that out.
It was originally an adult game. It was modified for Steam, and the Steam edition is A, reasonably cheap if I remember correctly, and B, doesn't have the same level of ecchi associated with it. So, But in terms of coding and gameplay, it's actually quite a bit more interesting.
Interesting.
And really, I have a copy of it primarily because of that.
So, have you found, because this is one of those things that I found, like, listening to other shows and looking at media coverage, do you find that it seems like a lot of people just don't understand game development? To me, it seems like it's been like an issue where people also just don't admit they know anything about game development. There's a reason they're talking about it and not doing it, almost. Do you find that too? I find a lot of that.
Well, actually, believe it or not, I find the level of ignorance of game development, the actual processes outside of the AAA space, very, very lacking. It's incredibly lacking. I mean, the lamestream gaming media seems to have it in their head that the only way to create a game is the way they did The Last of Us 2, or almost anything by Rockstar or Naughty Dog or pretty much or BioWare. They seem to think that that's the only way to make a game, and what little they do know about it generally doesn't tend to apply to most any other usage. I mean, you get game developers; they know what the hell they're doing. You get some people like me that have actually looked at the process and said, okay, we have this, and that we have to have, and we have to get it all. We have to get it all shoved into the same areas. I don't know everything. I'll admit that, but I certainly know a hell of a lot more than most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually where I wind up focusing the critique, usually on either design decisions that were pretty piss poor. The conversation we had about Fallout 76 being a starter, but also things like bits and pieces about the modeling or textures or things of that nature, things that are most definitely within an area that I've studied. While I was in college, actually I was a late student for this purpose. I actually took a whole year's worth of 3D art classes,
Mm-hmm.
from cubes all the way through heavy duty animation. I know how all of that shit works. And 2/3 of what most people consider game dev is actually surrounded by that. They don't know much about the coding. I know enough to know when I'm outclassed, which is definitely a better than most, and it's certainly a good place to.
Mm-hmm.
And having been into the weeds on most of the aspects, I know where my strengths are, I know where my weaknesses are, and I know what I can criticize and what I probably shouldn't do. For example, let's go back to Fallout 76 and their use of the creation engine. That was a bad move. Pretty much universal. That's pretty much a universal thing, but I could actually tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Adding a network layer to creation engine is just asking for problems. Not only you're not just asking for problems, you're demanding that you get problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an ask. That's Chaz level demands.
Yeah.
Hit me with your best shot. Okay.
Except the shot is laggy, and it somehow the damage is reversed back onto you due to some weird networking bug.
Or you fall down, your companion grabs your weapons, and then you don't get them back. That's just wrong.
Thief! Stop, thief! Yeah, no, there's a lot of things. You kind of mentioned the heavy hitters in the gaming press. I mean, there's a lot of things. I look at the gaming press and I scratch my head. There's always a lack of accountability for basically what I would call payola. It's a radio term, or at least a lack of disclosure.
Right.
Which is, there's always a lack of disclosure about the business dealings between the two firms, right? There's the media firm, the journalist firm, insert whatever company you want there, and then there's the firm that is the development, the game devs. Right. And I don't think it's always 100%, backdoor dealings. It's just a lack of understanding disclosure. You can have tech firms and game dev firms advertise their products on your website, but you also have to disclose that on every story that you've ever done.
Right.
For this review. Yeah. And in other markets or in other media industries like radio or newspaper or TV, that all has to be disclosed.
Actually,
in order.
For the most part, the same is actually true of the video game space. It just doesn't tend to happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things that really makes me scratch my head. I have colleagues who in radio, and I mean, I'm even a part of this. I have to sign a payola plugola form every year at the same time.
Uh-huh.
Every January, I have to re-sign this thing that says, right now, I don't have an interest or own any stock in a company that advertises with us directly. I don't stand to gain anything from these companies, blah, 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 blah. That really doesn't happen that much overtly disclosed. You listen to a regular news station, or they say this, here's some news about a good example is Lumber Liquidators. they used to sponsor stuff on NPR, and there was a story about a recall on Lumber Liquidators stock. Oh, some chemical was here that can cause a bad health thing, and so NPR had to say they hadn't had a Lumber Liquidators sponsorship in probably 5 years, but they still had to disclose and say, "Hey, Lumber Liquidators used to advertise on NPR." And so, keep that in mind when we talk about this story, even though it was a recall story. And that doesn't really happen that much on gaming websites, and it really irks me.
And part of what actually triggered Gamergate, the whole Five Guys thing, was that it's actually surrounded a game called Depression Quest. It was a little pile of twine garbage on so many levels. Don't get me started. If you want,
I'm familiar with that whole controversy. It's one of those ones I kind of stay out of it because of how many threads there are. I mean, it's you pull one thread on that story and you're tugging on 6 others, especially for anyone who's an outsider to that situation like I was. It's like, wow, you get into that story and you are factionalism. It's one of those weird things that I stay far away.
The two folks that were most involved with Quinn at that particular time, they both still have jobs, and they shouldn't. The first, of course, was Nathan Grayson, who back when he was still working for Kotaku, Shitaku for future reference. He pushed the review of Depression Quest off to Patty Hernandez, and Patty Hernandez was not only one of Quinn's ex-roommates, but she'd been down and dirty. But she also knew what Chelsea's actual hair color is. So neither one of them should have
that took me a second to understand what you were saying there. Oh man. Yeah, that's one of those weird ones. But I mean, like talking about like Kotaku, that's one of those weird ones that I'm always kind of like, how is Kotaku still a thing? Like, weren't they were a part of the Gawker Media, and didn't Gawker Media get dissolved by Hulk Hogan and Peter Thiel?
Actually, believe it or not, they sold it all to Univision. Univision's managed to divest itself of some of it. But I think they may still own Kotaku. Or did they? I think they sold it all. I think they actually managed to sell it all to Teal. Or I think Teal bought the whole thing, and then started cracking down on all the social justice going on. And then now we're drifting into politics, and we should probably go back the other direction.
Yeah, probably.
I do recall promising there would not be much in terms of politics here, and we kind of want to start avoiding. The whole story of Gawker Media is just wrapped up in quote unquote modern politics, and I don't want to upset anybody unnecessarily at this point. So
but it's interesting in terms of just in the coverage, and I mean Gawker is just it's a case study in unethical media coverage. It's one that I spent a lot of time. I was required actually by my university to take a lot of ethics. I had to take I took a class entirely on lying, in the ethics of lying, and really there are no ethics in lying. But another one of my
there's ethics in lying. It's just bad ethics.
Exactly.
I mean,
but another one.
Do you really need to be told? Do you really need to be told by the time you're an adult lying is bad? Apparently nobody. Well, my brain says nobody told freaking CNN that. Okay, that's the last crack I'm gonna make about that. Let's not go there. Speaking of news, PC Gamer has a couple of stories for us today. An Epic, which is enough for a minority stake, might actually be enough to get Sony a seat on the board. I don't know how big that's. I don't know what Epic's valuation is right now, but that seems like a significant chunk of change compared to what they should be.
Yeah. I see here that it's a 1.4% in interest in the company.
By 1.4. Well, that might be enough to score them something.
Yeah, because how much does Tencent have? I know Tencent is on the board, right?
Tencent's on the board. Let me see. There we go. 10-cent stake in Epic Games. How much? What do we got? Holy crap! 48.4%.
Oh, so just under half.
Inclusive of both stock and employee stock options, you're looking at 40% currently. When they bought it, it cost them $3 million. Sony's really late to the game.
Yeah.
Right now they're on about 40%, which is horrifying if you ask me.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is Epic isn't publicly, can't buy Epic's stock on the exchange.
I don't know if Epic Games had an IPO or not.
Let me look at it. Epic Games IPO.
Great minds think alike. Nope. Epic is privately owned.
Yep, by Twim Seedy and Mark Reen. Reen?
Yeah, Tim
Reen?
Yeah, Epic Games is not publicly traded, and it probably won't do so until it absolutely has to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to see only 1.4% of the. That's not really enough to stop Tencent from fully owning, from getting a majority shareholder. So that's
Tencent may see that's the problem. Tim Sweeney and the actual owners of Epic would have to allow them to do so, and that's the difference between a publicly traded company and a privately and a private company. Valve has the same thing going on. They're completely private, and they will probably never have an IPO.
Yeah. Has there been any speculation?
It actually is very strong preventative against a completely hostile takeover.
Yeah. Was there any real speculation onto why Sony made this investment from anyone in the industry? Because if I were to throw a guess out there, it was probably just so they could kind of prevent any sort of takeover, but it doesn't seem like they really put enough in that could solidly prevent that. And then the other thing what I was thinking is they want more say on the development of the Unreal Engine.
I think the latter is more likely. If Sony probably put as much forward as they could to get a seat on the board and no more. That would be my guess. They put in enough for themselves a seat on the board and make sure that there's at least a voice operating against Tencent. Because you don't need more than one board seat to have a significant effect on what's going on.
Yeah.
As for what it's worth, it also means with at least that level of stake, they wouldn't Sony probably wouldn't have to spend in royalties.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have to do for a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 game, if you're going on for a AAA game on an individual unit basis, you're money. And their bill for royalties on Unreal Engine may have exceeded $250 million. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That if I was going to do something like that, that would probably, if I was in that position in that space, that'd be why I'd do it. Because if I've got a seat on the board, I can say, okay, Sony doesn't have to pay this bill because fucking reasons. That's why. So it may at least be in part to have a say in development and to kind of cut down on the bills, which I think would probably be the smartest method. Was the smartest reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it is pure speculation on our parts. I haven't seen anyone actually say anything like, for sure the reason or anything like that.
That and
So
a revenue share from Fortnite would definitely buff up Sony's portfolio.
yeah, it'd help them. It'd help bolster that war chest. Not like they already have a large enough war chest as it is.
Yoshida-san says that powerful technologies in areas such as graphics places them at the forefront of game engine development with Unreal Engine and other innovations. That suggests to me that Unreal Engine was actually a factor in this.
Yeah.
It may have been, and since I think it seems to be mentioned in that particular quote, chances are that's their primary focus.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since a lot of a lot of Sony's AAA coming towards PC. Starting of course with Horizon Zero Dawn here in a couple of weeks. I'm thinking they probably did that. They probably put the development together in Unreal, and as a result, they know what that build's going to freaking look like.
Yeah, that's actually a game. Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm very interested in picking up because I've seen a lot of people play it. I have friends who absolutely love that game and have raved about it, so I'm looking forward to trying it out myself.
To be honest with you, I'm gonna join voices with them. It's actually a very good game.
Excellent. So I can feel good when I make the purchase.
I would. I did. I did. I paid for it on PS4. I can get it. I can get more of it now for a lot less than I paid for it. And I still don't have all the DLC for it. But right now, it once again, if you have a PS4, it's $20 for the whole thing. So
that is to know. I unfortunately do not have a PS4, though. I have someone who keeps offering to lend me theirs and say, you just got to buy the game that you want to play and I'll bring it over. And I'm like, but like, my PC is right here. So I can wait for it to come to PC.
See, the thing you didn't ask is why I had so many of the modern consoles.
I figured you had your own reasons, but you before the show started here, you did describe it as a pile of consoles.
Yes, I did.
Now that you have a pile of consoles, little mini tech.
Actually, the modern consoles I have I actually purchased specifically for the purposes of reviewing games on them for the channel. But I've actually been, honestly, I've been collecting consoles since I was, 16. And I still have most of them. Name me a that's come out over the last, I don't know, 30-ish years. Go ahead, try it.
Over the last 30-ish years?
Over the last
Do you have the Ouya? The Ouya?
Okay, first off, the Ouya was a complete scam. That was just a Linux box. Don't get me started on the Atari VCS. It's exactly the same thing. Try again.
How about is the NVIDIA Shield?
No,
That's a console.
That associates itself with a specific PC. It's effectively a controller.
All right. Let's hear. How about? Oh man, I'm trying to think of like a special edition Wii U.
Well, I have a Wii. I actually put that on the list. It's actually part of the extra. Try again.
Oh man, what about like do you have any retro boxes? Do you have any of those all-in-one retro boxes that you find at shady used game stores?
I don't actually, and there's a reason for that.
Because you probably own all the all the consoles that are already there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so actually, I got a question for you.
Hit me.
I'm gonna divert this just because my brain thought about this right away. Uh, as someone who owns all the consoles, or at least a majority of the consoles,
The
what do you think?
overwhelming
What do
majority.
you?
There are a few missing. I don't have a
Yeah.
Jaguar, for example. Uh,
Yeah. What do you think of like these like classic consoles, like the PS1 little mini slim HDMI thing that has, like 100 ROMs on it?
it would actually the PS1 Mini only has like 10 or 15 games on it, and they
Yeah.
didn't get the best of them. They didn't, not under any circumstances. Um, and honestly, most of the games that were on those machines could just as easily be had on a more modern console.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've got some really esoteric games for the PlayStation One, just as an example.
Mm-hmm.
None of which have actually appeared, or very few of which have actually appeared on the PS1. The PlayStation One Mini, and don't get me started about the Nintendo Mini and the short freaking cables. Oh crap! But I have most of
Yeah,
those
I
games.
remember those being like, wasn't it like a foot-and-a-half cable or something like that? Basically useless. It's like you had to like
It's an
expand
18-inch
it
cable. They
to.
actually made cable extenders for that, but that turned out to be a royal pain in the backside.
Yeah, I imagine so.
I can still hear you, so.
All right, I am back.
With you in about 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like MacArthur, I have returned. All right. So, are there any questions coming out from? Are there any questions for the chat here, or from the chat? Anything super interesting? Doesn't look like it at the moment, but it looks like it's mostly just my regular chatters here.
I seem to see a lot of conversations about dragons living with humans.
Yeah, Opal. Opal's just kind of one of those weird people. He's a blast to hang out with, but he tends to take the dragon thing as a thing. Actually, believe it or not, the entire chat is actually playing off the name. So
I have two folks that come into my chat all the time, and their inside joke is me playing Roblox Phantom Forces. Every time that they come in, it's like, oh look, you're not playing Roblox Phantom Forces like you should be. I'm like, when have I ever played that game, guys? I don't think I've ever even looked at a page to download Roblox.
Honestly, I tried Roblox for about 10 minutes and decided it wasn't worth my time. Never mind the money that they're going to want to actually get a decent gameplay, to to actually get a decent gameplay experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what the model is. I think that has been a game that we have completely ignored on our show. We've never looked at. I don't think we've ever talked about it outside of like one or two news stories. I know we've mentioned it once on the show because of there's a story back in, I think it was March, that the IRS was looking at uh, like in-game currencies and wondering if they could tax people on in-game currencies. And Roblox was one of the games that they were looking at. Quickly dismissed it because they're like, oh, you can't actually cash out except for Roblox, and that's just like a return.
Okay, we do actually have a question from Sir Opal Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
How about your top 4 indie games under $30?
Ooh, my top 4 games under $30. Let me open up Steam real quick.
That's a serious question. And it'll take a minute to come. It'll take a minute to answer. I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, indie games aren't usually my wheelhouse. I'm right in I'm that what I would like almost describe as double A games, like not like the triple A Call of Duty, but that kind of middling zone. Let me see here. Let me open up my Steam.
We don't talk about my Steam, but the first of mine would actually be technically in the double A space right now. Although the follow-up to it will almost certainly be a AAA style release, and that was Kerbal Space Program. That is that's a really neat little favorite. What else is good?
I will say, because I believe, so it's in that double A space again, but it used to be, Splash Damage used to have backing from Tencent on Dirty Bomb. They went completely independent after a certain amount of time because Tencent was kind of just a drain on their development. But Dirty Bomb is one of my absolute favorite games of all time. That's play space.
Well, I think we're still looking for games under $30. So
now it's free.
Oh,
that's completely free.
Yeah. Well, let me see. What else have I got here? There's been, and we don't talk about the size of my Steam collection. You can go look if you want to, but I don't think you. I think you might be best avoiding it. That's a very big number.
Go
ahead.
And one game that I've really enjoyed is called Deceit. It's a free-to-play game. This is more indie than it is like in the double A space, but it's a social deduction game where 6 people are on a map. 2 of them are these zombies that can transform when the lights go out, and so you're trying to figure out who these killers are. Very Trouble in Terrorist Town, but around the map there's different gear and stuff like that you can collect and defend yourself with. It's really fun. It's one of my.
I've actually seen that one.
It
relatively recently.
Yeah, I think somebody is still updating it and keeping it around, but I think the majority of the work is kind of done on it. It's got kind of a rough community. It's a community when we do it on stream, we only play when we know we have 6 people to fill the lobby.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who will just scream and use, racist language and such. And on Twitch, that's a no-go.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be so bad. I have thick enough skin, and the rest of us have thick enough skin. But when it comes to our positions on the platforms that we
words.
Yeah, exactly. When someone starts calling you every horrible name in the book for a black person or for a Jewish person, that's a no-go. Yeah, whatever.
Actually, believe it or not, Kerbal Space Program currently doesn't qualify, but it did when I bought it. Because I bought Kerbal Space Program at, I think it was $20 or $25, and it's currently $40. So that's kind of a thing. But I think most people that are going to that we're going to that are going I think actually most people that were going to actually play Kerbal Space Program have already purchased it long before 2K got their hands on it. So
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Man, under $30. Is this War of Mine? I mean, I haven't really played that, but I saw it and I'm like, is that an indie game?
I couldn't tell you actually. I don't know off the top of my head. I own a copy of this War of Mine, but I don't remember what it actually costs at this point. Let's see.
Man, this is a really hard question.
I know, right? Void Bastards.
I was actually recently.
I do actually like Void Bastards. I haven't played a whole lot of it. I've actually watched more of Opal playing it, but Void Bastards was particularly enjoyable. It would certainly qualify. It would qualify as an indie at this point, I expect. Come on, give me the freaking store page. But I don't know what. I don't remember what the price tag is on it. $29.99. $40 if you want all of the. If you want the DLC on top of it. So.
One game I can say I haven't played it for myself yet, but I'm going to, and it's an FMV game called Not for Broadcast by.
I've been
not
hoping
for
to get my hands on a copy of that.
It's so funny. It is so funny. I watched my co-host Rev play it. It's a game that I have a feeling is going to trigger me because when I was before I had my full-time gig, I was a producer for sports broadcasting at my local radio station, and so it's very similar in terms of I gotta stay aware and manage all these things, these commercials, and make sure that the talent can't be heard when these commercials run, and then so I'm just gonna be okay, now I gotta get that old work stress back, but this time it's for fun.
Let's see. I've got 2 so far. I mean, I'm having to go through some of the existing stuff, or some of the recent stuff, I should say. There was a visual novel from a long time back, called Sorcery Jokers. That was actually that's a really fun little read. I'm not sure if it necessarily qualifies as a game, but if I'm not mistaken, it was. I'm trying to remember, because I didn't. That was one that I didn't actually pay for. So I don't know. I don't remember what the price tag is on. No, that one's too expensive. That one's too expensive. Let's see. Good. Wow, I've got so many games. I've played so many games over the last who the hell knows how many years.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to pick 4,
Yeah. It really is. There's one game that I tried out the demo recently that I'm really looking forward to. This is Men.
Don't know that.
It's being published by Tiny Build, but it's a third-person shooter, kind of like Splatoon, but everything is food-based. So you have a power-up called Cock Sauce that looks like a bottle of sriracha. You have a minigun that shoots bratwurst. It's really fun. I'm looking forward to that coming out.
Oh yeah, no, that would just be hilarious.
It is so silly. I played it with my co-host on his 2-year anniversary stream. He did a 2-year anniversary stream a month or 2 back. It's super duper fun.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me on any level. Let's see. Let's see. Actually, you want a good set, and that's the Bart's Tale trilogy. It was $15, and I'm pretty sure it still is. You can get a copy with Bart's Tale 4 Director's Cut as well. But that was part of the AAA space way back in the day, way back when Electronic Arts was still good. But it was taken over by a smaller company. I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and they remade them. In Exile Entertainment. They're actually self-publishing now, so they're no longer in the AAA space.
Ah. So yeah, they are within the technically indie. I actually got to go to my. I'm gonna go to my Amazon Web Games or my Amazon Games account and see what all I've picked up.
See, I don't.
Through Twitch Prime.
I mostly operate through. Well, I don't. Twitch Prime and I are having disagreements. What else? What else have we got here? I don't know why, but I have a copy of Call of Duty World War II. Never played it. Didn't bother installing it. Let me see. What else we got? Starcrawlers was okay. Not necessarily a favorite, but it was actually okay. The same, of course, is true of Encased.
Yeah.
Which is
one game. One game that I did play a bit of that I really enjoyed, indie games wise, was Kingsway. I don't know if you ever saw that. That was it was a roguelite, but everything was done on like an old Windows 95 operating system.
Oh, cool.
So, and like all the monsters would were like pop-ups, and then you had to like, and then like there were like certain attacks, like a fireball, and the fireball is a window that's moving around on its own, and so in order to stop a fireball from hitting you, you have to hit the X button on it.
Yeah.
That was really fun. I have fond memories playing that. I never really finished it, but it was one that I played quite a bit of, and that was a really one that I reviewed on all the episodes that no one can actually access anymore.
That's no fun.
That's way before we rebooted the show with the current branding and such.
Right.
Like those 4 episodes that we kind of just let dissolve into the digital ether.
What was the name of that game? There was a... Oh, crap. I had it a minute ago, and now I don't remember. So... Stardew Valley was amusing, but again, I'm not necessarily going to prop that one up at this point. But the one I was thinking of actually was released about the same time. Oh, that was it. It was Book of Demons, I think it was called. Yep, there it is. I found it. Book of Demons. And what it is a card-based version of Diablo.
Okay, it took me a minute to kind of like a card-based version of Diablo, huh?
Yeah, you're based on the game centers around cards. It's all papercraft. But it kind of has that Diablo feel to it. There's not as much freedom of motion, but it's entertaining in and of itself. So, yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And I'm trying to remember. Let me just check this. Let me just check the magic page here, because yeah, that one's $25. It was done by an outfit called Return to Games.
So here's one that I forgot about that I absolutely love. I got this for free. I'm trying to find it on. Let me find it on the Steam listing. But Observer. It's a psychological horror game.
Observe. Oh, right. That was the one where you're the AI.
Well, you're kind of like AI. Yeah, it's about for $30. Yeah, you play a cyberpunk detective, and you can like plug in your like neural, USB
okay.
jack into computer systems and other people's neural
I know which
jacks.
one you're talking about now. I was thinking of observation, which is a different thing altogether. But no, observer was actually one I had a decent time with up until I ran out of fucking ammunition. Because holy crap!
No, that's it's more of a puzzle game. It doesn't have any there's no combat in that game.
No, I seem to recall otherwise. But yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Let's see. Okay, what Steam game has the highest play time, and what is and how much time have you spent in it? I can almost guarantee mine is Skyrim. Almost. Let me see.
So mine is Dirty Bomb at 590 hours. And then my close second is Insurgency, the original, at 514 hours.
Cookie there. Okay. How do I sort this out? All games, maybe. Sort by playtime, and that's gonna take a minute for me because there's a lot of games to sort through. I don't know about Killing Floor. I actually wasn't a big fan of Killing Floor, to be honest.
Yeah, I picked up Killing Floor 2 really early on, like, I don't know, maybe 2015. It was one of the first games I purchased for the computer, or for this PC that I built.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just kind of been disappointed with it ever since, because they really didn't change much about the game from when I originally played it. They didn't add they didn't add more bosses. They had 2 bosses, now they have 3. They just add more maps, and I'm like, that's not necessarily what I'm looking for in a game. I want more variety in what I'm fighting, not where I'm fighting.
I may not be able to get that information for you, Opal, because the client itself crashed. It just went away.
Oh no.
Well, it has to sort through more than 3,000. Okay, huh? What the hell is going on now? Wow. Just wow. I may actually have to answer that. I may actually have to answer that another time. Click into games. All games? All games? Maybe it works.
Trying to see what else.
Who needs skill to build rockets? I got Kerbal Space Program.
Let's see. The other game that I have that I think like approaches that amount of time played. Let's see. Skyrim, I have 158. Elder Scrolls Online, I have almost 400. I have 340 hours into that game. I have no idea how that happened. I'm not even that high of a level in that game on any of my characters.
I have a copy of Elder Scrolls Online, but I mostly because I lost the ability to return it while it was still downloading shit. It was still updating. I don't think I've ever actually started the game on Steam. Kind of weird. Okay.
Since I'm on the topic of mine, I had a weird thing before I moved out of my father's home. I actually couldn't update the game.
Huh.
There's an update where it would kind of start and stop, and I'd have to close the launcher and then launch it again, some other wonky stuff to get it, and then eventually it would just stop getting the information from the ZeniMax servers. Right. The only explanation I could find was that it, my ISP was blacklisting the ZeniMax servers.
I would not be surprised if they did shit like that. Let's see. I was correct. Skyrim at 532, Star Trek Online at 444, and Fallout 4 at 422. That's the top 3.
I actually just bought Fallout 4. I decided with the sale. I've been really enjoying Fallout New Vegas. I already kind of know all the stuff about Fallout 4, its flaws, and how it relates to the rest of the series. But I wanted to play it for myself, so I did pick it up on the Steam sale with BioShock 1 and 2 remastered, and I've also bought Warfare, which is a game from Drakeling Studios, which is run by Blue Drake 42. For anyone who knows him on YouTube.
I do not, but I might have to look that up. Just to give you an idea, out of the top 20 games on this pile, I have 2 pieces of software, and 3 and just 2 others that aren't RPGs. 3 others that aren't RPGs. Out of everything else is role-playing games. What's up with that?
You have a favorite.
Obviously.
You have a favorite.
For example, I absolutely adored the Zero Escape series. All 3 games. 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, or I think that's the correct order. Zero Time Dilemma and Virtue's Last Stand. In no particular, that's the actual chronological order. Or no, it's Virtue's Last Reward was the second game that was released. Then they went back and put in a game in between the 2 in between. And if you can get the whole trilogy, actually quite a nice read. Some fun puzzles in all 3 games. Some of them can get a little esoteric, but clear most of them. And actually, I have to go down to almost 40 before I start running into any real numbers of not RPGs. Again, depending on what your definition of them is. Darknet, for example, I've played for 40 hours and change, and that's a hacking game. It's a Hollywood hacking game that is absolutely that seems to be absolutely honest with himself. The guy that made it, nice guy, great guy, love him to death. E. Neil, I think is his name. Once you start out and you do all of your proper trading in Bitcoin. But yeah, you get a large scale overview of a server, and you got to try and you got to crack the security to get to the core. And if you can take that, then you're in good shape. That's actually what it takes to win a particular round.
Yeah.
And of course they have public, government, and quote unquote dark servers, etc., etc., that are clearly color coded. Sort of a purplish color for the super private servers. Government servers are, I believe, blue, and yellow for pretty much every fucking thing else. But yeah, the puzzles in there can get really entertaining. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I haven't played that. I don't even know how long. But Zero Escape, the Nonary games. Star Ocean, The Longest Journey. That was kind of a weird one. And I actually have a mixed bag of old and new mixed into here. It's really kind of weird. So yeah.
My game collection, I mean, I basically claim everything on the Twitch Prime for the Amazon Games thing. So way too many games there and almost none of them installed.
I don't know.
I'm looking at my Epic Games. I ended up picking up Grand Theft Auto. I'm sorry, what was that?
I don't think I can get. I don't think I can buy enough space to install everything that I own on Steam. There was a day a few years back when I could do that. That doesn't happen now. Oh, here's a game that actually goes on my list for under $30. It's Techno Babylon. It is actually
Okay.
it's a pointy clicky adventure game. I remember it's either 10 or $15. It wasn't expensive when I got it years ago, and I actually did do a review on it.
Hmm.
But there were some things there were a couple things I found questionable in there, but it didn't wind up being enough to really kill the review.
Mm.
And that me was the thing that was just thrown in there at random. One of the characters was trans, and she picked a specific instance to put forward a confession that nobody gave a shit about.
Mm.
In fact, if it hadn't, if they just drug it up out of nowhere as something that they were thinking was character development, it really wasn't. Narrative devices like that just drive me insane every time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the character was doing just fine and would have been just fine without pointing that thing out.
Yeah. So I was actually just peeking over at my Twitter here. The Devolver Digital event is going on
Is it?
right now. Yeah. Is there anything out of Devolver Digital that you're forward to seeing
I don't know
at this?
about
Because I'm gonna have to
looking
watch
forward
this
to,
after stream.
I don't know that I'm necessarily looking forward to anything necessarily out of Devolver. A bunch of the stuff that they had in mind, but some of the older stuff was actually really good. Enter the Gungeon. God, the puns. Oh, terrible.
So good, but so bad.
You're terrible. What was I looking at? Oh, if you want a really good puzzle game that's $30, try the Turing Test. It's not. It was It's published by Square Enix, but was developed independently. It was actually part of their little incubator.
Mm.
That I think Square Enix is still running, but the Turing Test was absolutely excellent. It took me about somewhere between 10 and 15 hours to finish it.
Wait, hold up. I think what they're doing this year is they did a game. This is what it says from Devolver Digital. Devolver Land Expo is a first-person marketing simulator set within an abandoned convention center after the annual Devolver Digital Game Expo was mysteriously canceled. Play the future's future of video game marketing for free on Steam. And they have a little trailer with it. Oh, that's fantastic.
I gotta see that now. Drop me
Yeah,
a link.
here,
Drop me a link. I'll go look at it. Orwell, keeping an eye on you. That was a really good one. Its follow-up, actually, the follow-up game you would think would be completely separate. They actually managed to work it. Together.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually played Gothic. I think I actually have Gothic 3. But yeah, I think that would actually cover my top picks as far as indie games under $30. I don't remember exactly how much the Turing Test is. I don't know how much the Turing Test is now, but I remember paying. I think it was $20 at release. It might still be.
Yeah.
Let me go look. Orwell was like $10 or $15. It wasn't. I didn't buy Orwell myself. I did cover it. Give me the star page for the Turing Test real quick here. It is $20, the Turing Test. $30 if you want the upgrade pack, which I'm reasonably sure I don't have. No, I was in it actually, but I paid. I covered that. I did actually. I think I actually bought the Turing Test and its upgrade kit, but I forget what was in the upgrade kit. That's it. Oh, that's the pre-alpha prototype of the Turing Test. So yeah, no, soundtrack, art book, and the pre-alpha prototype was the thing I was actually looking for.
Yeah.
The Turing test was
Yeah,
was actually a lovely bundle of puzzles. That shit was brilliant. And you had some choices, and you had a choice at the end of near the end of the game that actually made sense. It made sense that you would have a choice at the end of the game, given the story that it was actually working through. As opposed to, oh, I don't know, Mankind Divided, which had the Engine-tron 3000 on it. Which in my brain was a complete pain in the ass. The Turing test did it similarly, but it made more sense. You had to pick your fellow humans or the AI, or the shipboard AI, and those were your choices. I did catch your top 4: Subnautica, Empyrean, Summer in Mara, and Don't Starve Together. Don't Starve was fun. Was actually good too, although I'm really not very good at the survival type games. You got 3 survival style games in his top 4 list. Subnautica, not quite as much as Empyrean and Don't Starve Together. The reason for the purpose of Don't Starve Together is actually right there in the freaking title. So
yeah,
that's kind of a thing. It is actually a really neat little game, though.
It is. I really enjoy the art style of Don't Starve and Don't Starve Together. It's it's Tim Burton-esque. It's very sad time kind of, and I really enjoy that aesthetic. I haven't touched either of them though. Indie games, like I said, are not my bread and butter, but AA space is where I'm usually at. So
I'm actually going to install Devolver Land Expo.
I just hit the button to do it too.
It really is. It's free. I don't want Shadow Warrior 3. Carrion's coming up, and I think I may have actually asked for it. If I haven't, I'll put in a request for it here soon. Serious Sam 4 is not something that really strokes the switch here.
I haven't played any of the Serious Sam games. Have you?
I have actually played some of them. As FPSs go, they're decent. If you liked Doom and Duke Nukem, Serious Sam will probably scratches that same itch. I'm not as interested in the ones that are strictly multiplayer. If you don't have a campaign, I'm probably not going to play your game. That's just the way it is. It was part of the reason I decided not to go anywhere near the most recent Battlefield game or Call of Duty.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten a little bit closer to. I've been really craving that that campaign. I've been going towards some of these other single player games. A game that I picked up on Steam, the Steam sale that I forgot to mention was Metro not Exodus.
Not Exodus? Because I have.
No, it's the second one in the series.
Now I don't remember.
Because here we are. So Last Light. Yeah. Metro 2030. So.
Yeah, 2030. I've got the Redux versions. So I've got the Redux versions of both Last Light and 2033. I think there was a 32 as well. I'm not 100% sure on that though. One of the things I actually liked about the Metro series was that your primary currency made sense. Bullets. In a place where they would have a scarcity. They have a scarcity. You can only make so many of them. Although in this respect you could technically mint money this way, you're not going to get that far. Hey Brian, how you doing? but you're not going to be able to do a lot of that. And you have to balance. But you have to balance your concerns for defense, as in shooting him before he shoots you, and whether or not you're going to be able to buy the next thing that you absolutely have to have. So, that's actually a good thing. Yeah, no, yeah, Tom, it's bullets. That was true of all of the Metro games, as a matter of fact. I think. Actually, I haven't played Exodus, so I can't speak to that one. But I know the first two had your primary currency was bullets, not gold or anything else. Bullets.
Bottle caps.
Don't get me started on caps. Don't get me started. They actually had weight.
So yeah, like I picked up.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll go. Yeah, so I picked up Metro Last Light because Metro goes for free often. So I picked it up. I know I picked it up from like Humble Bundle years ago, so I have it on Steam. And then they put it out on. I grabbed it on Epic too, and just installed it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play. I haven't actually played through this game. So I went and did that, and I'm like, you know what? I really enjoyed 2033. Let me go do Last Light, and if I really like Last Light after that, let's go pick up Exodus afterwards. But I've been really craving that single player experience, which is the whole reason I even picked it up.
Well, it's always been my contention that the single player experience is probably the best part of any game of this nature. And mostly because you don't have to deal with a whole lot of other people. There are very few games that I've found that have done multiplayer well. Journey was one of them. And Journey is another one that would actually make some of my top picks. It's not exactly it's not the top 4, but it would definitely make the top 10 of all time. But I don't know I don't even know what they're charging for it now. I think I paid $30 for it like 10 years ago or so. It was right after it was released on the PlayStation 3. But I've got a couple different copies of it now. PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. I don't know if I've got it on Steam. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's been released on Steam. I know it's on the Epic Game Store, but I don't think I try not to buy anything from App Store unless I have to. And there have been a few games I've done that for. I recently picked up Borderlands 3 on Steam because, well, screw them. The same thing is true of Jedi Fallen Order. But yeah, no, Jedi Fallen Order was a game that I picked up on Steam the instant I was able. Because Steam takes a 30% cut, whereas Epic Game Store takes, was it 12 or 15? And I was not giving EA money. I was not going to use Origin to buy it because that means EA gets all the money.
gotta give them that little jab.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Matter of fact, that's exactly what it was. If I'm going to bow down and give EA any money, I'm going to stiff them as hard as I can on the bill.
I'm trying to think if there's been any games recently that I've recently done that with, and I can't really think of any. Like the 2K, I guess maybe. Like for the longest time, I refused to get GTA 5 because I didn't want to deal with 2K. Forever good Rockstar are as devs. I just didn't, 2K pull some shit that I'm like, I don't want to give them any money. So, yeah, I think GTA 5 was it. But then I ended up picking it up for free on the Epic Game Store, which was such a good deal that it destroyed Epic's servers for like 24 hours.
Slow internet. Oh yeah. Actually, I picked up I finally picked up GTA 5 earlier this year when it was on sale for like $15 on Steam.
Yeah.
And I got 2 copies. My wife absolutely adores the Grand Theft Auto series. I can't imagine why, but that's her thing. She wants a copy of it. I'll get it for her. We can get it. It's not a big thing, especially when it's not $60 fucking dollars. Hey, Mello, we're doing okay today.
Hey, Mello.
2K EA. I try not to give Ubisoft money when I can avoid it. But I don't take nearly as hard a stance on Ubisoft as I do generally on EA, and to a lesser degree 2K games. I don't want to give Gearbox money either, but that's a completely different issue.
I'm kind of looking through here. I mean, I've when it comes to Ubisoft, I've done the Far Cry games, and it looks like I've tried to play Rainbow Six Siege a couple times. I've never quite gotten into Rainbow Six Siege. It doesn't hit the same sensibilities that I want in a tactical shooter, so it's just not one that I play very often.
Part of the problem I have is the level of microtransactions that go into these games. Extended season pass. You get a season pass. You get the first season pass, and then 6 months later they've got a year 2 pass. No. I got my copy of Rainbow Six Siege for free from Ubisoft.
Man, I wish I got the same, because I spent $15 on the regular version, and it's like, $15, and I'm gonna have to really grind for all the characters. I should have maybe splurged on the regular version.
Well, Ubisoft offered it for free for a while. It was like 2 or 3 weeks a couple of years ago for Rainbow Six Siege. Fine, I'll not give you money and take the game, but I don't count on me to install or play it, because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to improve their play. At least that's my expectation. A lot of the Assassin's Creed games that I've got over there on Uplay, same. They offered them for free. I said, fine. Twist my arm, why don't you?
Yeah, that was kind of like what it was for me with GTA 5. It was kind of like, oh, well, I guess I have to now. It's for free, and it's on a launcher. I mean, it's probably the sole reason I have that launcher, or the that I even have the Epic Games launcher at all. Because there's so few games I actually have on there. I certainly don't play
a
Fortnite.
lot of people got pissed off about having an extra Epic Games launcher. I didn't actually give a shit at the time, because I already had it on board. Because I was working with, we were trying to put together a game that never seems to quite come together on an Unreal Engine. And that turned out to be its own group of issues. We're still working on that game. It just tends to pop up and then go down for a while, and pop up and go down for a while. Get a bunch of work done on it, and then it just kind of dies for a while, because the primary coder is actually works as a stage manager.
Have you, because a lot of people complain about having a bunch of launchers, have you ever tried GOG Galaxy launcher?
Yes, I've tried GOG Galaxy's launcher. It works mostly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I find. Mostly is a good way to describe it.
I mean, it's great for GOG games, but when you start adding additional launchers, when you start adding additionals on board, things can get out of hand pretty quickly, especially when you have as many Steam games as I've got. Because holy shit.
Yeah, I have the games I have connected to it. I have the GOG games. I picked up Fallout New Vegas for the PC. I also have Daggerfall and Elder Scrolls Arena.
Yeah.
With it, so I can see all that stuff. But what kind of sucks is Amazon games won't connect to it. So I have all these games that I get for free from Amazon Games that I have to actually open up the Amazon Games launcher to even look at and see what I have, which is a bit of a thorn in my crotch, because there's a lot of games on there. But like when it comes to like the Origin and like the Steam games and knowing what I have installed, I actually really like it. I appreciate being able to look at all my installed games across all my launchers, and be able to like Apex Legends, just like load Apex Legends up right away. I like it, but you're right. It's kind of like a mostly thing. I haven't used any of the friend connectivity stuff, mostly because to me that unless does it connect all your Epic and your Steam? I think it does. Your friends, but everyone's so scattered anymore, anyways, that it doesn't really matter.
For those who are easily amused, the number of games actually listed as owned here, actual games owned, not including DLC, 3,600.
Woof. Yeah, that blows my 100 or so out of the water.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, in 2016, my number was closer to 200. Actually, it wasn't even that high. Over several years of reviewing games, numbers tend to blow up. And I would be shocked to discover that I paid for even 10% of that.
Yeah, let's see.
Because I can tell you that the overwhelming majority of the games I have handy, or I have that make up that number, were sent over here as keys in the last 5-ish years.
So to answer Opal, the only reason I have it is because I have Twitch Prime, and if you have Twitch Prime, they give away free game month. At the beginning of the month, you'll see Twitch Prime alerts. I haven't actually bought anything from Amazon Games itself. And the only game that I've played from the Amazon Game Studios was Crucible, and I did not have a favorable opinion of that game at all. And evidently a lot of other people didn't because they unreleased the game.
Oof. That's no
good. That was...
Okay.
Yeah, they unreleased the game like 2 weeks ago, which doesn't surprise me because I have a middle of the... see a little earlier. I mean, it's lower end, middle of the road by now, but I shouldn't be getting sub 30 frames on that game at all. And I mean, there were times where I felt like I was looking at a picture book with it.
Oh, that's no.
It's really rough. I'm like, yeah, it was not good, and it has me kind of scared because I know a lot of people are really stoked for this Amazon Games New World, which I saw they delayed to 2021 now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are stoked on that game. I'm like, you might want to temper your expectations here.
I'm still looking at the release. I'm still looking for the release of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, did that get delayed again, or am I crazy?
Yeah, it got pushed back to November.
Okay.
The next game I've actually got on the pre-order list is actually Trails of Cold Steel 4. Ease 9 is on the list to be pre-ordered, but I'm not going to bother with that until much closer to release time.
Yeah. So I mentioned this earlier with that I'm thinking that I am going to be building a PC, but I kind of had a thought when it comes to Cyberpunk, depending on how long it takes me to get my PC built. If I buy the game and then try it on NVIDIA now, I don't know if that's a crazy thought or not, but I've been thinking about it. I'm like, if I buy Cyberpunk before I build the PC and just play it on NVIDIA now, like that would work, right? Like it should work. It's a single player game. There's no networking that really needs to happen, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I'd probably temper my expectations about then. Streaming games like that will be more difficult than it looks like. Just ask Google and their Stadia platform. Holy shit, don't get me started.
Yeah, well, my co-host Green actually he had a fairly favorable experience with NVIDIA Now. We've talked about it before, and his whole thing was, he's like, I'm either paying $0 for 1 hour, and then I can hop right back in the queue, or I'm paying $5 a month for 6-hour sessions. That's actually a fairly decent deal when you look at what else is being offered. I can get behind that. So it had me, yeah, if I want to play Cyberpunk for, a 3-hour session, let me just spend the $5 and then I can play whatever else I want on the GeForce Now system.
Yeah, well,
Well, not whatever I want, because there are some devs out there who don't understand what GeForce Now is, but that's
a whole other kettle of fish. And we actually, theoretically, we ran out of time half an hour ago, dude.
Oh wow, yeah, that went by fast. Holy cow!
Yeah, no kidding. Time does fly when you're having fun, though. We should probably do this again.
Yeah, I'd be down.
There was some stuff we didn't manage to get to. And who knows? Maybe I'll come visit you guys on the on your podcast someday.
We'll make plans for that sometime.
Yep. Alrighty then. So I think we're about. I should just. We probably should wander off at this point. I'm definitely going to have a look at that. I'm definitely going to go and have a look at that Devolver Digital thing.
Yeah. That's on my list for today for sure.
But yeah, I'm gonna have a look at that. It's actually in the download queue right now, and you might also want to look at, if you like the. I might recommend that you look into a game called Wolf Lord. It's currently in beta. I'm not sure if it's actually for sale now or not.
Mm-hmm.
But might be able. I might be able to talk to the dev. He's actually a guy we've worked with here before. Lizard Factory. I don't know if it's actually free. Yeah, it's. Oh, dude, it's $6.
Oh, that's cheap.
It's $6 for the $15 supporters package. So it's in early access. It knows it's in early access, and I've seen this guy actually work. So
yeah, it's called Wolf Lord.
Wolf Lord. And it's actually Wolf Lord beta. Here, I'll tell you what. I will save you the difficulty of doing a Steam search.
You can send me the Steam page.
Oh yeah, I can do that right quick. It's not hard. Okay, right there. Boop.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's $6 for the base. You can get the supporter package for like another $15 if you really want to. But if you like the social thing, then go for it.
Sounds excellent.
I'm sure. I'm sure Mr. Gecko loves the plug. So. All right, guys. I think that's going to be a little shorter than maybe we wanted to. Don't forget to do the like, comment, subscribe thing if you want to help out in some more way. There's a bunch of links down there in the description. Go nuts. Yes, I'm on Twitter. No, I don't actually spend very much time on it, but hey, that's all good. Between now and the next time we see you, be safe, be sane, and let's make games fun again. All right. See ya.
See ya.